Hey everyone, this is Lynn from Holistic Health and Wellness. Welcome to another episode of Living Life Naturally. And I have back again today Kelly Bonanno. She was with us a few weeks ago, but we're going to talk about something different today. So, as you may remember, Kelly is an eco-friendly lifestyle and wellness coach. She's a speaker, and she's the host of Clean Beauty Scene podcast. So I would encourage you to look for that and start listening to her podcast. Her eco wellness is her signature holistic and realistic approach to overall well-being based on her 7 pillars of health. So she specializes in helping busy, overwhelmed women, which we know is so many of us, decrease inflammation, optimize weight loss, reduce toxic load, and go green without giving up glamour. So that's what I love about Kelly, because to me, she's a very glamorous person, and I love to have people like her on the show who can give us some insights. But we're doing something totally different today. At the end of the last podcast, we had kind of talked about having Kelly back to do something about intermittent fasting. It's such a buzzword at this time of our stage of our lives. So I wanted to get somebody that's definitely more into it than I am. So Kelly, welcome again to the show. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
So I know that you do quite a bit with intermittent fasting, and I know in fact you recently did a webinar on intermittent fasting. So tell us a little bit exactly what is intermittent fasting.
Well, it's an eating pattern where you have periods of eating, the fed state, and periods of fasting, and you want at least 12 hours of the fasted state. And there's different variations, but it's kind of a buzzword. It's sort of on trend, but it's been around a long time. I've been doing it for almost 5 years now. And I kind of done it on and off. And the reason I love it so much is because that's when you really test it. When I'm off, it's like when I'm on it, that's when I can really manage things and it's easy. And there's really not a lot of restriction and calorie counting and, those diet plans and all of that. And that's why I like it. It's just easy to assimilate into your life. For some people, it takes a little getting used to, and that's what I help, kind of ease people into it. But and then you have to choose the one that's right for your schedule, for your needs, for your lifestyle. So the lean gains model is the most popular, and that is 16 hours fasted, 8 hours of an eating window. But that's most of those 16 hours you're sleeping, or not most of them, but at least half of them, hopefully, if you're getting a good night's sleep. That's what we hope. And then there's alternate days. So you're fasting one day off, eating one day. And then there's just one day a week. So you're fasting just one day a week. Then there's the 5 and 2 plan. So 5 days, you're eating normal. 2 days, you are eating very restricted calories, like around 500 for women, 600 for men. And then there's the 1 meal a day. So you're eating within a 4-hour window. That's sort of 15 to 2,000 calories. And you can kind of play with it, see what works with your system, see what is best for you. And you can alternate even. Sometimes you can do the 8-hour window, and then sometimes you can do the 4-hour. But that's getting into more details. And that's pretty much what it is.
So why do you think it's become so popular in the last few years? Do you know that? Do you have an idea?
I think it's because people have success with it. And once they get going with it, they realize it's not that hard. So it's easy to maintain and assimilate. Where some of these things, they're so restrictive that when you go back to old ways, because it's hard to really restrict or cut out entire food groups or, count calories or what have you. So people go back to their old ways and then they gain it back. And so this is more of a plan where you can, and there's the other thing I like about it is if you have a vacation or a wedding or something going on or a breakfast where you can't stay within that 8-hour, 1 or 2 days here and there doing that is not going to throw you completely off. Or some restrictive diets, one little calorie can just, when you have
Right.
to be so strict. And
Yeah.
that's what, so I think,
Yeah.
and of course it's been on trend. It's kind of this buzzword and
Yeah. So what I tend to do is I tend to do it more like 4 days a week, and then I'll go probably not have breakfast. And so it's probably a good 16 hours at least before I eat. And my family thinks I'm totally nuts to do that, but it absolutely doesn't bother me to eat that way. And some people can't go without eating. So
yeah.
I know there are different types of us out there and different types of health issues. Is there a specific type of health issue this might specifically be beneficial for?
Well, I mean, it's beneficial for most people, but if you have like adrenal problems, if you're diabetic, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, if you have some hormonal issues, if you're underweight, or if you have a history of eating disorders, those are issues where you want to check with your doctor. I believe in checking with your doctor no matter what, frankly,
Right.
because, and then there's many other, health issues. Like I have a client who, has an issue, and it's like, I had to do some research, have her check with her doctor and do some of my own research to see. So I always want to make sure it's healthy.
Right, right. So what are the benefits with intermittent fasting?
So the benefits are huge, and that's what I love about it. The first benefit, of course, is weight loss and also weight maintenance. I always say that if you don't really have much weight, but you're happy where you're at, but maybe you fluctuate, like that's always kind of been my problem is, oh, great, I'm up 5 pounds and I don't even know why. Or I've lost 5 or 7 pounds and I really don't even know, So once I became a health coach and kind of dove into this, then it was nice to have a way to stop those fluctuations. So even if you just are maintaining, it's a nice, easy way to maintain. It balances that blood sugar, the insulin, and it also reduces your cravings. I want to be able to see you better. And it can help with hormonal function, and it can lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, and it puts your body in a state of autophagy. And that's basically when it's cell renewal. So it's kind of a scientist. I don't want to get too far into it, but it's basically like your body breaks down the cells and kind of renews. And so the old worn out cells are on their way out and the fresher cells, because we're always kind of creating new cells. So without getting into a whole like scientific explanation, but it's super good and healthy for your body. And there are, excuse me, preliminary studies saying it can help prevent cancer. Definitely improves energy, because when you're giving your body a rest from digestion, that your body needs that. And so then it has that energy to be able to digest in those hours rather than all day long. And it really can heal the gut as well. And it can definitely reduce risk of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, as you know, is so preventable with the right lifestyle and diet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So are there then any downsides to doing this?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, if it's not right for you, or if you're on you have some sort of health issues where fasting is not good, then it wouldn't be for you. But as far as a downside, I mean, maybe for some people it's a little hard to get started. That's why I help clients do it gradually if necessary. And let's see, another downside maybe would be there are times, even me, I'm used to it. Wow, I can't eat for 2 hours and I'm feeling hungry. So, that might happen. But for the most part, you can have your black coffee, tea, water, and that's just what I fill up on during those hours. And then I have other tips and tricks and things that will not push you out of the fasted state that I help clients with as well.
So when you do
it's like it's a habit. Once you're used to it, it's your way of life.
Yeah. So for you, when you do intermittent fasting, what kind do you do? Do you do so many hours off with eating or so many days of not eating? How do you approach it for yourself?
I like the lean gains model, the most popular one, the 12 and 8. That to me is the easiest. And
So that would be for people that don't know about it. So maybe your last meal's at 7 and you wouldn't eat until 7 the next morning, right? 12
right. So you
hours.
want to be fasting, yeah, 16 hours. So you're
16.
eating within an 8-hour window. So for a lot of people, a very common eating window is noon to 8. So you have your first bite of food at noon and then you finish at 8. So then you want to be starting dinner before 8. So it's like if
Right.
if you're eating at 7, the fasted state starts the minute you take your last bite. So that's why you have to kind of play with it and see what it works with your schedule. I mean, some people need a little earlier because they get up earlier or what have you. I'm more of a night owl, so I'm later. And there are some days where I'll shorten the window. Sometimes I'll kind of play with it to sort of trick my system. And then there's some days when I don't at all. I think sometimes it's like not bad to switch things up a little bit.
So there's so many different theories out there. So of course, for people with diabetes, they've been taught so many times, don't stop eating. You need to keep your blood sugar level, and you need to be eating maybe 4, 5, 6 little meals a day. Even with migraines, that's one of the things that they say to you is don't go without meals. You've got to have your blood sugar level always level throughout the day. So for some people, this maybe would not work so well for them, but yet I have migraines and I seem to do pretty well as long as I don't go outside my window and say fast all day. So if I don't eat all day, by the end of the afternoon, I often find I'm a little bit headachy.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's something you really want to check with your doctor. Diabetes is, it's a serious disease. And so you want to be doing it. And it might not. Now, intermittent fasting does balance your insulin and blood sugars, but diabetes is a whole other, it's a
Right,
whole other issue. So you
right.
definitely will want to check with your doctor and see. And it might not be the right thing for people with diabetes.
Yeah, so it's like you and I had discussed before we hopped on that really intermittent fasting isn't necessarily for everybody.
No, no. I don't think there's one plan that's a one size
Right,
fits all.
right.
Nothing works for every single person on the planet. So yeah, I think it
So
works for most
when
people,
people,
but
yeah, I'm sure. So for you or for your clients, when you're teaching them about intermittent fasting, how do you deal with what kind of food they then eat? So is it like, oh, you can fast all day so you can binge at night?
that's the key, right? The nice thing about intermittent fasting is yes, you can enjoy some of your favorite foods and within reason and and still lose the weight, maintain the weight. But yes, we want to be healthy and eating. You want to focus on the nutrient dense foods, definitely. No matter if you're trying to lose weight or what have you. I mean, right? We know this, but it can be difficult. So you focus on the nutrient dense foods and then you can allow yourself. I mean, I've heard, and there are people that, yeah, they eat unhealthy, eat whatever they want in that fed state and they still lose the weight, but I don't think it's a healthy way. And it
Right.
also depends. Some people are more, you know, uh, sensitive to carbohydrates, and so it really depends. I mean, some people can do that. It's a little trial and error. And then it also depends on the other thing about the insulin levels, and certain foods are going to spike your blood sugars. And that is not a good thing. So you really want to be eating in balance, having that balance of the proper ratio of protein and fiber and healthy fats. Um, and so you're not, and low glycemic carbohydrates for the most part. So you're not spiking it anyway, because the intermittent fasting definitely helps level it out. But when you're eating all that. But yeah, you got to be able to live a little. Like if you want a glass of wine, you're going out to dinner, you're going to a wedding, you want to treat yourself. I think it's fine. And I like it because it teaches you that, oh, I had a cookie, I just may as well blow it. No, you can have those little things peppered in without, because I think that's a lot of, you probably see it with your clients where you blow your diet, and so you just go off the rails.
Right.
And that,
I even find my own mindset sometimes going that way. If I'm on not such a controlled lifestyle, excuse me, then I find myself thinking, oh, I've done this, so what does it matter? So it's really a stinky mindset, and it's one that people seem to think that if you're a health coach or if you're in the nutrition field in some way, you have it all together. But really, we still struggle with it ourselves.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's like, no, I'm not perfect at all. And I think that's helpful. Sometimes if I am up a few pounds or do the, not follow my own advice, it's like, you know what, this is good, because then I can almost relate to my clients even more.
Right.
Like, oh, I got to coach myself right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that with life coaches a lot, where they will talk about how they coach themselves, and they're going to have to coach themselves. And I think it's a continual thing for us with our mindset, coaching ourselves back into that right mindset. Right. Because it comes, whether you're intermittent fasting, if you're on a healthy lifestyle, it's all about getting your head on straight, as I would say. Yeah.
And the other thing that I like, because one of my problems before is I did that more, where it was like, oh, I blew it, I may as well, like, and then I got to start the next day or start Monday on my healthy. But now I don't feel like that. It's like, okay, if I want my favorite little meringue cookies or a pint of hazelnut, okay, I'm for the,
yeah.
And then I also kind of believe in that 80-20 rule. If you're doing the right stuff 80-90% of the time, you can live a little. You got to be able to live a little, because otherwise you'll just go off the rails all over again.
Yeah. That's one thing I talk to my clients about, because if you're restrictive with what you do, you're not going to be successful. You've got to allow that 20% at least, or less than 20%, whatever you're comfortable with, so that you don't feel like you're restricted and then you do go off the wagon, because you just can't live that way.
Exactly. I think that's the most important thing. I think people think when they have to change their eating patterns or, start reaching their health goals, it's going to be so much change. And, depending on how unhealthy you're living, yes, there's going to be change. You do have to make some changes, but it doesn't have to be, so restrictive and so, and little small habits at a time. You're not just overhauling everything too hard.
Right. So with intermittent fasting, there's still a portion of that mindset that you have to go through. For some people, they would be, good English word, flabbergasted over it, thinking that, oh my gosh, I couldn't possibly do something like that, because if you sneak in that word fasting, they're going to think I'm going without and I can't do that. But really, that's
starvation.
Right. And that's not what this is. It can be really kind of freeing, because it allows your body to settle, to have a chance to rest, and then you do feel better.
Absolutely. And I heard a quote, I think it's by Dr. Eads, where like the contemplation of a diet isn't as hard as the implementation, but the contemplation of intermittent fasting is much harder than the implementation.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing, is it's once you do it, you realize, oh, this is not so hard. Yeah. And certain people, I think I would have a hard time on that 1 day a week fasting. I don't know if I've never tried that one. So it kind of depends. You have to do one that's going to not be difficult for you too.
So we used to do fasts, spiritual fasts, where we go for like 3 days without eating. And now those could be very difficult. And so I want to make clear to our audience, that is not the type of fasting that we're talking about. This one is so much easier and so much healthier for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And it when you are doing this, it really helps your mind-body connection too. When you let yourself be a little hungry. It's almost, it's interesting.
I think it gets you in tune with your body, because so many of us eat when we think we're hungry, but we're really not. It's an
Absolutely.
emotional state as opposed to an actual hunger state. So I think intermittent fasting can help you intuitively begin to learn to get your body's cues and know when you're hungry and when you're not hungry.
Absolutely. That's one of the huge benefits too.
Mm. So
Learning
if,
to read your body.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
if
just
you,
learning to listen to your body. Yeah.
yeah, and that can be to some people a really huge thing, but I think the more you do something like this, or you're on a healthy lifestyle, it starts and you don't even realize at first that you're beginning to get a bit more intuitive with your body.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were talking to people about where to start this whole thing, if they've never done intermittent fasting before, how do you tell them to even get started with it? How do you teach them to do that?
Well, the first thing is with intermittent fasting is you do want to do it right, because then your efforts are all for naught. Because if it's not done right, yeah, you're not going to put your body in the right fasted state. You're not going to get the benefits or the weight loss. So you need to, either do your research or get some guidance on doing it properly. Like a lot of people come to me and they think they're doing it right, but they're having, creamer in their coffee or a handful of nuts or like, that's not right. So getting the right guidance, and also picking a plan, mapping it out, being prepared. So you're not just diving into it, mapping out, how you're going to assimilate it into your schedule and your lifestyle. So having a little bit of a plan, having an eating plan, having a plan for what you will drink during those fasted states, and and guidance. Like I have a 5-day free challenge coming up in the middle of November. It's intermittent fasting kickstart, so it's going to help people get started with, and we're going to dive into exactly what it is, how to choose which type of intermittent fasting is best for you, and then all that good stuff to get you on your way.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
So
yeah, people can
we'll be
join that.
sure and put that in the show notes so people can get in on that, because it is for some a whole new experience, and that's a great way to do it because it's a guided way for them to do it, and yet it's a free 5-day challenge.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Great.
So I will definitely put that in the show notes. So how long have you been doing intermittent fasting?
Over almost 5 years, about over 4 years. So yeah, it's almost, yeah. And like I said, I've been on and off with it, but when I'm on, it's good. Like now I feel like I'll never go off of it. but you can go off a day or here, that's what's nice is it's in my lifestyle and I'm doing it most of the time, that 80-90 rule. But if I'm happen to get invited to breakfast or what have you, we're on vacation, or with the holidays coming up, that's why it's nice to have it under control for the holidays too. So that way, you don't have to gain that extra. Some people gain 2, 3, 5, 7 pounds during the holidays. I mean, who knows what the holidays will be like this year?
Right, this is true.
But things are starting to open up. So
I'm thinking even about when we've done a lot of cruising, that it's nothing for people when they've been on a cruise for 7 to 10 days to put on 10 pounds. And I mean, that's a lot of weight to put on and not nearly so easy to get off. So this,
right.
Even when you're on vacation, there is still that period of time, if you want to allow this intermittent fasting.
Absolutely. In fact, we were on vacation. We went to Lake Tahoe this summer, and I had been really good about the intermittent fasting for such a long time. And most days was not a problem. I just would have my coffee. We'd go on a hike, drink a lot of water, and some days not because of just what we were doing. But I didn't gain any weight on vacation like a lot of people do, because, and I still went out to dinner every night and had fun.
Yeah, that's
some
great.
Wine.
Yeah, that's like having the best of both worlds, and you don't really think about it as being on a diet, because I really hate that word diet and that diet mentality thing. It's just a ruin of.
is you don't,
Yes.
it's your lifestyle. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the key to success too, because diets, you go on and off, and yeah, there's nothing to go on or off. It's just your lifestyle.
Right. Right. And it's easy to do because if you choose to do it for that 16-hour period of time, most of us don't even think about the fact that unless you're a late eater, which I'm not because I know it bothers my digestion, but if you think about it, like if you eat at 7 o'clock at night, so you got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, a lot of people don't even think about eating that early in the day. Now, a lot do. They're very steadfast at having an early breakfast, but it's not such a big switch as, say, going on a very radical diet.
Absolutely. And that there's a little bit of a myth about the whole diet is the most important. I think I heard that it's really the big box cereal, cereal companies are the ones who propagated that myth. It's most studies show that is not true.
Yeah, so thanks. That's kind of opened the curtains a little bit on intermittent fasting, and I really encourage our listeners to get on that 5-day challenge with you, and they can learn more about it and really learn the art of it, because it can be so very helpful for us, and it doesn't have to be viewed as a restrictive thing. It can be viewed as a very healthy thing.
Absolutely. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I love talking about intermittent fasting, so this was very fun.
Thanks. It was fun to have you back on here, Kelly.
Absolutely.
And so I might even jump on your intermittent fasting challenge as well, because even though I do it, to get some guidance on how to really get some better ways to do it is always good.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of, reset a little bit and learn a little bit more. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, for anybody who's already sort of doing it, it could help them, get more on track with it. That'd be
so
great.
Again, tell our listeners your website address so that they can find you.
KellyBonnano.com. That's my name. Bonanno. That's the tricky part. It's a little hard to. People always put the two ends at the beginning. It's actually at the end. Bonanno.
And I will have it again in the show notes so everybody can find that and find the challenge. And I hope to see some of you out there on that challenge with us. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Kelly.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lynn. It's really nice.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes.